Welcome to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we aim to improve overall health and wellness of the UT McCombs MBA community through promoting healthy habits and sharing personal wellness stories. Many stressors can emerge during an MBA, and we hope that this podcast will help you prioritize your health during your time at McCombs and onward through the rest of your life. All right, we are back on the Wellness Collective podcast. I'm joined by Georgia Kouros, first year MBA at McCombs. And I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your last name right. I should ask you before we started recording, but is that how you say it, Georgia?
No, Kouros. Yep.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for doing this a little last minute, but we got another one in this week. And I just usually like to start these off with your backstory, where you're from, like what were you doing before McCombs and why McCombs?
Yeah. So, my name is Georgia. I basically born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm Greek American, so both my parents were born in Greece. My dad was pretty much raised here. My mom was very much raised in Greece. So they met in Los Angeles. My mom was an animator with Walt Disney, so I was born across the street from the Walt Disney Studio in Burbank.
That's awesome.
So yeah, no, that's definitely something that I'm very proud of her for. So yeah, grew up in like borderline Los Angeles, Orange County. I went to USC when I turned 18 for 4 years. Then when I graduated, I worked in the Orange County area. And honestly, August of 2023, this year was the first time that I ventured outside of California. So yeah, I moved here and didn't know a single person.
Well, I think you chose a great place. Austin's it's a little warmer, but I feel like it's a pretty good city. I don't know, are you liking it so far?
Yeah, no, I'm very I would rather be hot than cold, and I feel like with most people it's the opposite. So definitely picked a better place as opposed to like Portland or Seattle, where it's just very wet and cold frequently. Here it feels like it's very as soon as we get spring, it becomes pretty warm. So
Yeah, you get used to it. And going back, you said your mom was a Disney animator. Is there any shows that we know of that she helped animate?
yeah, so she did the genie in Aladdin.
Oh, no way.
She did Flounder and the Little Mermaid. Let's see, what else did she do? She did Lumiere, which is the candlestick character in Beauty and the Beast. She did Nala as an adult in The Lion King.
Gosh, that's
Yeah,
quite a
she
portfolio.
did a few things. So
Man. And then, so the other thing I was thinking, you said she's grew up in Greece for a while, and I know we might cover nutrition here, and everyone talks about how well people eat in Greece, like the Mediterranean diet and that kind of lifestyle.
So it's
Did
interesting. So
Yeah.
you're right. We do eat like healthier foods. Like we have a lot of olive oil. We have a lot of like vegetables, homegrown stuff. But one of the bad habits they have is they eat very late. So like lamb is a big part of the Greek diet. It's not, I mean, obviously it's expensive, so it's not something that you would be able to go out and eat every night.
Yeah.
But people eat late at night there. It's kind of like Spain in that sense. Like people will go out and eat dinner at like 10 o'clock p.m. And they'll stay up until like 1 or 2. But like
Jeez.
so the diet is healthy, that's true. But whenever you eat meat, and meat is a big part of the diet, and it's like rich, like red meat, and you eat it late at night, it's not, it's definitely like we go there and if I go there for like a month on summer vacation, like when I was a kid, coming back, it was definitely like you don't feel too great when you wake up in the morning after eating that heavy that late at night. But they wake up early, like 7 o'clock, and then they like do kind of like what Spain does, like 2 p.m. Everyone goes and takes a nap for like an hour or two. Like stores close, but then stores open back up at like 10 p.m. and they're open until like 2.
Wow.
So
So do they call it a siesta? Like, or what do they call it?
yeah, I mean they
Nap
call
time?
it, yeah. Yeah, so they do like a little nap.
What are your thoughts on that?
You know, quiet time.
Do you think it's healthy have you done any research, or do you think you need to get like 8 hours at night, or is it okay to,
I
do some
personally, I
naps?
have noticed if I get less than 7 hours, like I can, if I do 6 hours, I can get away with it for like 1 or 2 nights. But then I start like noticing that I'm really run down. For me, I need like 7 hours. Usually I don't need 8, but like I try to go to bed with 8 on my mind and then realize that like I might only get 7 hours of actual sleep because, wake up, takes a while to fall asleep, whatever. So 7 hours is perfect, I think, for
Do
an
you subscribe
adult.
to the daytime nap, the power nap?
Um, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that if it's only half an hour, I won't like actually fall asleep, and maybe just a little bit, but I'll be easy to wake up. If I do more than half an hour and I knock out, I'm one of those people like if you don't set the alarm, I will sleep. I will sleep until noon. I will just like go right through it. Um,
Yeah.
so I would, if I do that, it's probably for like half an hour. Um,
I I challenge people to do the 20 minutes and just do it for a week. And the first few times, like, yeah, you won't fall asleep, but eventually your body, I don't know, it just takes some time and you'll knock out and wake up and it feels like a new day. At least that's my personal experience, but I'm a big believer in power naps. So I probably need to move to Greece.
yeah, I mean so when they take naps, I think they will do like an hour or more. So it's like a sweet spot, like a 2 hour period, I guess. I mean, I personally, I would not take a nap longer than half an hour you, unless you know that the next day you're just not going to get enough sleep that night. Like you have to wake up early in the morning or whatever. Like you need to actually get good sleep during the nap, which means that it would have to be longer than half an hour. But um, half an hour, 20, yeah, you're right. So 20 minutes to 30 minutes is the sweet spot, I think.
Yeah, I think you feel more groggy if you go longer than that. And I'm curious, last thing on the Greece thing. I'm kind of fascinated by this. Are they doing this in their bed, or do they have like mats where they lay down on the floor to take the nap?
Oh, they do it in their bed.
Okay. I That's
Yeah.
another thing I disagree with. I feel like if you do that, you get so used, it's harder to fall asleep at night if you take a nap in your
Yeah.
bed. But if you take a
Well,
nap on the
they
floor,
say like that, and that's the thing, right? Is like, so I live in a studio, right? And so it's a pretty big studio. Like I have no complaints. It's like 550 square feet. But you're sleeping and working and eating in the same place versus people kind of advocate for doing those things in separate locations, like the bed. Don't be on the computer in the bed. Don't be doing homework, reading, or studying in your bed, or in your bedroom, right? That room should solely be for the purposes of sleep, so that like your body psychologically knows when you go to that bed, it's time to turn off. Versus like me, I mean, I think everybody, and this is a bad habit that we have, is we're on our phones before we go to sleep, or we're doing stuff in the bedroom that is not sleeping. And it's I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but it's true because sometimes you do so many other things in your bed that it's like when it comes time to fall asleep, it's like that needs to be like the only thing that you do there.
yeah, it's almost like a instinctual like coaching of your body. Like once your body hits the bed, it is time to go to sleep. It's not time to scroll. So I know some people like leave their phones in another room or something like that to kind of make that a habit. And if they're struggling with sleeping,
Yeah. The problem is everyone uses their phone as an alarm clock. At least I do.
yeah,
So
I can't do that. It's not loud enough. I don't. And oh, that's
really,
another point. I think if I don't know if you have trouble about turning off your alarm and staying in bed. I have to put my alarm clock on like the other side of the room, so I physically have to get up to go turn it off.
yeah. So like my thing is, I'm very slow in the morning. So if I set my alarm at 8, I'd have to tell myself, okay, I'm not going to realistically be getting out of bed until 8:15 because I just so what I and it's bad because sometimes if I'm really out of it, I'll fall back asleep within the 5 minutes before the next alarm goes off. I set like
Oh
five
yeah.
alarms, which is not good. So what I've been doing is I've been like, as soon as the first alarm goes off, I'll put on like one of my playlists on Spotify and just have that quietly play just to prevent me from falling asleep. Um, and then I mean, I'll still probably hit snooze 3 times, but at least then I won't like be falling back asleep because the music will just like lightly keep me awake.
No, yeah, it's a challenge for sure. And I think you got to find your way to do it. I always want, aspire to be like that Jocko Willink Navy SEAL guy that just doesn't believe in the snooze button at all and just,
I know I'm so
wake up.
jealous. We have so many disciplined people in our class. Like and the thing is, it's like it's embarrassing for me, right? Because they live farther away from campus than I do, like much farther. And yet 8 a.m. like last year we had core classes. They were on time every single day, early even to 8 to our 8 a.m.s, and they live farther away, and I live closer. And I can't. I have a really hard time being on
Oh yeah,
time.
some people are getting on trains, getting on buses to get here, and so there's a
Yeah,
way, but it's I think it got to have that discipline, which I think is great. But also, it's like sunk cost too. If you've never been disciplined in your life, it's like no worry to think about that and feel bad. You can change it tomorrow. Go start tomorrow and
yeah,
start waking up on time. I don't know. I think gradual improvement is my goal because I'm definitely closer to your camp. But also, I want to talk about the Mediterranean diet some more too. You're just talking about a lot of olive oil, and
mhm.
I've found that is so much better than the seed oils that we see a lot in America. It seems like almost machine oil. And I don't know if have you noticed even in America though, a lot of the olive oil we have is cut with a
Crap.
ton of seed oil.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I mean, there's a lot of Greek olive oil. I mean, Italians have good olive oil too. The Greek olive oil, I mean, I think obviously I'm biased. But there's this, I guess, a bakery in right next to my apartment in like kind of by the triangle. It's called Phoenician Bakery and Deli, and they have a lot of like like different foods or ingredients from the Mediterranean area. So you can buy Greek coffee, you can buy Greek olive oil, and I think it's better. I mean, it's more natural. It's a lot better than using butter. Butter obviously some of it's salted. It's just very very saturated. Um, and all I mean, at the end of the day, like people get very and you would be surprised how people try to cut out entire like you need carbs, you need fats, and protein. And people are like, oh no, I can't have like any fat. I can't have olive oil because it's like 100 calories a spoon. And I'm like, well, those are good calories. Like I would tell people like I would eat, peanut butter, for example. I mean, I would get the one without sugar or salt, and they would be surprised, like, oh my God, peanut butter is like not good for you. Well, actually, like if it's a healthy oil, it's a healthy fat. So as long as you don't have all the additional like the additives that they put in it, I mean, you do need fats as part of your diet. And yeah, they are very high in calories, but like your body needs it's almost like a lubricant for, your digestive system. So but yeah, going back to I guess the olive oil thing. I think my opinion for good Greek olive oil is called spitiko. It's like Greek olive oil. I'm pretty sure you can get it at that bakery I mentioned. Um, but yeah, Greek olive oil is a very healthy fat, and
I'm gonna
and
have
you need
to
fats in your diet.
I'm gonna have to ask you to message me that because there's no way I can say that brand, and I'll have it in the show notes for anyone that's curious and wants to check it out. But I completely agree. I think there was like a whole battle against saturated fat back in the day, and that's why everyone was against olive oil. But it turns out saturated fat really isn't bad for you. Like you need that kind of stuff, and it's good for your brain. And I I would even do the shots of olive oil bring to work. So like sometimes that the fat kick is better than any of the sugary snacks you can bring or bars. If you just get a little bit of fat in you, it can keep you moving throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so like, a few years ago, right? So, whenever my family and I, like, we usually go to Greece, if not every summer, then every other summer. But, we try to make a stop at like another European country for like a week before we go to Greece. So I
Nice.
remember, one time we went to France, and I love France. Like, France is probably my favorite European country aside from Greece. Very, very, Paris is very cosmopolitan. I really like it, but there's a lot of carbs in the Parisian diet, and there's not a lot of, I feel like, oils. And so, when I would go there, like, I think my body was in shock for a lot, like for a while I was there, even if it was just for a week, because there was so much carbs in your diet. So I was actually doing, like you said, like doing the spoonfuls of olive oil, not every day, but like every other day when I was in France, because their food is amazing and the people are amazing. There's a lot of cheese, a lot of breads, a lot of rich pastries, and it's that. And then obviously your jet lag, and that's probably, I think that really puts the cherry on top of it. But like sometimes you kind of need to cleanse, after you've eaten there's only so many pastries and breads and cheeses that you can have without needing to step back for a second.
Yeah. And it reminds me of what do you think about there was a big push to eat like 6 meals a day to keep your energy going?
I kind of like, I mean, I've been looking into that too. I think that's a good idea. I mean, the thing is that people, I don't remember where I saw this or where I read this, but some people were saying, try, eating a meal with a blindfold on, you know, and what that does is you'll only eat as much until you're full. And a lot of times I think people will be full when they're like halfway through a meal, and they'll just keep going because psychologically it's like, well, I have to finish what's on my plate, And so if you have 6 small meals, you're obviously not going to put as much on your plate as if you had 3 bigger meals. So I feel like, eat before you get like super hungry and you feel like your stomach feels empty inside. Like, don't wait until that moment to eat. But at the same time, like, don't eat until you're full. Like, it's better to just kind of, I guess, graze 6 times a day. But don't eat like snacks and junk food 6 times a day. Like, you need to have legitimate meals 6 times a day. Um,
Okay.
so I think I like it. I think but the thing is, the way like society is kind of structured, right? Like, you wake up, most people, working, they have a quick bite before they run out the door. They don't eat enough breakfast, and breakfast is probably the most important meal a day. Lunch, I mean, working in an office, right, depends on the culture of your firm, but a lot of people will go out and have exorbitant lunches with coworkers. And coming from real estate and finance, that was definitely, like, I was very shocked how much money people burn through at lunchtime.
Oh gosh.
We were doing this every day, and I guess
Yeah.
everyone was in their 20s, so no one would gain weight from all the exorbitant eating at lunch. But like, they wouldn't drink. I think the drinking at lunch was very much a Mad Men thing that people don't do anymore, because you come back and the work you produce is crap because you're kind of drunk. But at dinner, right? Like, especially if you're in a family setting, you sit down, there's, your parents cook like a big salad, rice, potatoes, meat, so there's all this food, and it's just a very, very big meal. And like in my household, my dad was very good about cooking a big meal for dinner. But we're just late people, so we would eat at 8 o'clock. And there's just a lot of food, and there's just kind of like a pressure to eat a lot on that last meal. And if anything, I feel like that last meal should be the lightest meal of the day, as opposed to the first two,
Yeah, you don't
because
need
you're
much
kind of
energy to
wind your
sleep.
body down. Yeah. So um, and so
But
I think 6 meals is definitely preferable, but it's just like the way our society is oriented. especially growing up as a kid, assuming that you sit down at the family dinner table, it's like an event. And so that last meal ends up being the biggest one. And that's the one that should be the smallest one because you're trying to turn off the lights in a couple hours. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of logic there, but I have to counter. But I think this is like the whole wellness podcast. Everyone has like a different way they like to eat. And I think everyone should experiment and see what works best for them because from what I've seen, there's just so many different types and there's not one specific way that is best for everyone. But my thoughts are like the whole fight against fats have has led to the necessity to eat 6 meals throughout the day because you're not getting that long lasting energy. You're running on those quick sugar hits and your sugar spikes and then it drops and you need a refresh. You need another bite of bread or something to keep you going. And I think if
Yeah.
you keep those fats in your diet, you actually become satiated and can go longer and use your energy more efficiently and have a better energy level throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think we cover nutrition really well, but I just want to get your general thoughts on wellness. So like I saw, I know we were playing pickleball the other day with the NBA group. I feel like that's pro wellness, but just in general, what would you define wellness as and how do you approach it?
Yeah, so I think, obviously having a balanced diet, as far as exercise goes. So I'm very like, I like to work out like 4 or 5 days a week, usually 5 days. So I know we have a lot of like in our MBA program, we have a lot of runners. And, I mean, running is for the cardiovascular component, it's good for that. But when I was in high school, I was on the running, not the running team, but I was on the cross country team as a freshman. And maybe it's because I have short legs. I personally don't think my body was built for running. But it's just wreaks havoc on your joints,
Yeah.
especially like depending on where you run. But I just feel like, I mean, your knees, your hips, like both my dad and my uncle were on cross country in high school and they both had hip surgeries, and some knee surgeries, and they're not like short and stout, like they're tall. Like my dad's 6'1", my uncle's like 6'3". So it's just, personally, I think the best cardio exercise is swimming. Because you can't, unless you're like Michael Phelps and you're, swimming 4 hours a day, you're not going to get swimmer's shoulder. You're just not. And that's,
Mm.
there's not very much injury unless you swim multiple hours a day that you're going to get from swimming versus if you run, like when I was on the cross country team, I would get tendonitis and it was horrible because I would put like a little knee an ankle brace on one ankle, like the right ankle 1 week, and then I would be out because I have to let it heal. And then I would be back, the following week, and I would be running for 2 days, and then it would switch to the other ankle. So I'd have the brace on the other ankle, and I would be out for another week. So
Geez.
it's just really, really bad for your joints. So like with me, like what I like to do is, swimming. Like I did a lot of swimming when I was at USC. Like they would have like I think it was like a 1 unit. They had these little 1 unit athletic courses that were part of your tuition. And so you could do like swimming every Monday and Wednesday for 2 hours a day, right? And that was considered like a course on learning how to swim, even though like it wasn't, teaching you how to kick. If you wanted to do laps, like they would let you do laps.
And you got a grade for it? It was like a class?
Yeah, so you could
Oh wow.
choose to get like A, B, C, D, or you could do pass fail. I usually did pass fail. Because if I can't show up one day or I don't want to, because a lot of times they'll give you tests and like what are the different parts of your body that work this time and that. It's like I don't need to make athletic activity academic. Like we can say that for the classroom. So I would just take a pass fail or I would audit. I did that. I did yoga. I did like weightlifting. I think now, like I don't do as much swimming now. Now I do mostly like CrossFit. I will say this, I like doing HIIT. Like if I can do 20, 30 minutes like 2-3 times a week. It's really, I mean, obviously it's not great for your joints, but if you really focus during those 20-30 minutes of HIIT, the best thing about it is not so much the calories you burn in those 20-30 minutes, but it basically rearranges your metabolism, and you start shedding calories when you're like not working out at all. Like the whole point of doing HIIT is that it jumpstarts your metabolism for when you're sedentary. And I think that is, I mean, being an MBA student and, running around all the time, like I don't have a whole bunch of time in the day to go like on an hour-long run. So if I can do a really difficult 20-30 minute HIIT workout to the point where I can be burning calories sitting at a desk, that's a win to me.
Do you make your own program, or do you like going to classes?
So the thing is that since COVID, I stopped working out at a gym. I started doing stuff through like the fitness apps at home. And you can do a lot with very little equipment. Like all I have is some dumbbells. I have the little discs that you can like the little pads that you can, the circular ones where you can kind of slide your legs around, slide your arms around. I have a bunch of mini bands. I have a TheraBand. I have like one of those, what's it called? The foam rollers.
Yeah.
So like you don't, all that stuff, like it sounds like a lot, but it doesn't take, it's not like when you bench press, like there's no bench, right? There's no huge barbell. So all of this stuff takes very little room. And you can, acquire this stuff throughout time. And so you basically can get a super great workout with very little equipment. Now, obviously I'm a girl, so I don't care about lifting super heavy. Obviously guys, like they like to go to the gym and get like these huge dumbbells and like bench press and like try to, bulk up more and try to lift heavier and heavier. I don't. I would rather use much lighter weights and just focus on good form and using them in CrossFit and like challenge myself in the sense of like moving faster, like doing more reps in the 30 seconds that they give us for that exercise. Yeah, so there's a lot that you can do with very little equipment, and you would be surprised. I think the problem with working out from home is not so much lack of equipment, but people kind of need to be in a gym environment where everyone is there motivated and working out to also be motivated to work out. I think that's probably the biggest component of working out. That's
None of the
maybe
distractions at home.
right.
But do you have any recommended, you're talking about like fitness app, your favorite fitness apps or maybe YouTube channels that you follow?
Yeah, I mean, so personally, I really like the Equinox Plus app. Obviously the Equinox gym is very expensive. I don't go to the gym. If you do the app, it's like $40 a month, but it is really, really, everything's all inclusive. Like they have yoga, they have Pilates, they have bar classes, they have CrossFit, they have boxing, they have like heavy weightlifting stuff if that's what you're into. So they have a little bit of everything. They come up with the thing, and I was also going to say this is I get bored very easily, right? So if I just do like a jog around, like if I were to run the trail every single day, I would get bored because it's the same motion, same location, and I feel like once I get bored, I start slowing down, I start getting lazy. But the thing with these classes on the app is that each fitness instructor and each class has a different set of exercises. And I think the fact that it's a surprise keeps me engaged and keeps me trying my hardest. So Equinox Plus is really good about that. Like there's always a surprise, and they'll tell you when the last time you took that class was, so you don't take the same class 2 weeks later. Like for me, I really love making it a surprise. Like I don't know, I took this class a year ago. I might remember, like it might deja vu, but I don't, the surprise of what's coming next is kind of what keeps me engaged.
Yeah, and that's the big thing I think is being consistent. And you're also working different muscles, so it's a win-win.
Yeah.
But I was a big fan of the P90X videos back in the day because you didn't have to think. You just showed up, you put in a DVD, you just press play, and then just go along, and then before you know it, you're done. And I think those type of aids can be super helpful.
Yeah.
But Georgia, thank you so much for coming on the Wellness Podcast. Are there any last final thoughts that you want to close it out on how people at McCombs can make sure they're prioritizing their wellness?
Yeah, I would say definitely, I think putting things in perspective, and I guess, we talked about nutrition, we talked about fitness. I think the last step, and maybe arguably the most important one of the three, is mental health. So I would say, um, especially with like summer internships, and there's a lot of pressure floating around, especially with like, we have a lot of obviously consulting and IB people in the program, and they're always the first ones to get internships. And so I think that a lot of people who aren't in IB and consulting, like coming back from winter break and seeing that a lot of their friends who are in those tracks have internships, because they have a very structured recruitment program. I would say, just take a step back. Like, at the end of the day, it's really only 2 months in the 2-year program. And it's not going to make or break your career if you don't get something specific that you wanted for that 2-month period. It's definitely like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that 2-month period is not going to be nearly as important as you feel like it is right now. So I think if we just take a step back and look at, stop placing so much pressure on ourselves for something in the very near future that's a very short term event, like we'll kind of got to remind ourselves, right, that in the long run, it's not going to make or break your career. And so I guess my recommendation or advice for people in the program is to just remember that, with the ups and the downs, like, you got a rejection, or you good news, bad news, like, just put it into perspective.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great point to touch on, that mental health is the number one. So whatever helps you get through that, like, we're here at the Wellness Collective. If you want to talk to anyone, you want to talk it out, whatever your way of coping with that is, but keep moving forward. But yeah, thank you so much, Georgia. And that wraps it for another week of the Wellness Collective podcast. See ya. Thank you for listening to the McCombs Wellness Collective podcast, where we record weekly episodes during the semester to promote healthy habits and learn about personal wellness journeys. Stay well, my friends, and hook 'em horns.